All right, TJ. So it's always an overreaction, and I don't necessarily know that we overreacted when they were 5-1. When we were talking about the fact that they could end up with the best record in the NFC, they still could. They sure didn't look good on Sunday, but I also think all of those people who are saying, "Well, it was fool's gold," or season's not over. It was one game, 1 of 17. They're still 5-2, still tied with the best record they've had since 91. So I'll ask you that question: how impactful was yesterday's game?
It was a combination of, the Lions being off and the Ravens being off the charts.
Yeah.
I felt like, I felt good about this matchup going into it. I thought the way our defense had been playing, the way our offense had been playing, that we were going to give ourselves a chance. Just sometimes you lay an egg, sometimes just everything you do doesn't work. And sometimes when you're on the other side of that, when you're on the Baltimore side of that, you feel like anything you call is going to be a big play. And it was, yeah, a whole bunch of them. My goodness. I think some of those guys are still running. It's just a lot of explosives. Look, I think Baltimore looked to me like a team that would have beaten any team in the NFL yesterday playing that way. Yeah. You know what I mean? It looked like they kind of took it personal that, hey, we've got a 5-1 team coming in here. We're still pretty damn good too. They hadn't been at that stadium, I think, in 4 weeks. They were obviously pumped up to be back in front of their home crowd. And we just got beat, man. We got beat thoroughly. And early, often, late, it didn't really matter. Anything we did was kind of Baltimore just kind of laughing in your face, saying, good luck. And it was bad. And we both played. I played 10 years. You played 12 years. We both been on both sides of that game many times. It's not fun when you're on the wrong side of it, but you got to go back to the drawing board. Look, and I think, I was reading a quote this morning from Mike McDaniel, the Dolphins coach. They obviously lost another game last night to Philly. He said, look, losses can be a good thing sometimes if they're approached the right way. And I agree with that. I do think that when you're riding high, when you're 5-1, when you're getting puffed up in the media and everybody's kind of patting you on the back, telling you how great you are, sometimes you push some of the issues down the road. You say, okay, we've got some issues, but hey, as long as we keep winning, man, we don't gotta address those right now. Yesterday, I think all those things kind of culminated into we got to take a step back. We got to hit the reset button again and kind of get back to our basics and get back to our identity, because I felt like they were kind of slipping from that a little bit under the disguise of, or under the guise of, we're 5-1, right? We don't got to worry about those things. We're winning games. Now it gives you an opportunity to step back, really dive into the film, look at who you are, look in the mirror and say, you know what, man, like we got knocked on our ass, right? How are we going to rebound? How are we going to respond from this? Those are things I'm excited to see. But yesterday, just sometimes you chalk it up and you say complete debacle, right? Coaching staff, players, everybody, nobody was ready to go. They just came out and they took it to us, man. And that's a good team over there. You got to give them their credit. But we didn't do really anything, in my opinion, at a level that's acceptable for this team. And those guys realize that. They're going to get back to work. And I do know that, Dan Campbell, he likes being down in the mud. He likes being in the foxhole with that group of guys. And everything that I've seen from him in the past year and a half, allows me to kind of tell myself there's no need to panic, right? There's still a 5-2 football team. Everything's still ahead of them. But you definitely have some corrections to make. You definitely do. And starting with defense, way too many big plays, obviously, way too many free runners.
I was listening to you guys because I was in my truck yesterday and listening to Dan talk about Dan Miller. This is their 8th play of greater than 20 yards. This is their 9th play of greater than 20 yards. And I was sitting there going, holy
and all by different guys pretty much too.
But you mentioned glossing over. When you're winning, so you do have a tendency to gloss over some things, and especially when a lot of your playmakers are young players, whether first, second, third year. You've got the base of this team, even though you do have Alex Anzalone on defense and you've got Jared Goff on offense, you've got Tracy Walker in the secondary. You have some veteran leadership, but the bulk of your playmakers are young players, and they're more prone to gloss over some of those issues in wins than some of the veteran players because they haven't had moments like this. Now, you had a moment against Seattle where you lost, but it wasn't like it wasn't an ass beating like we saw in Baltimore. So you've got to find a way to come back. I think the thing that really upset me the most or concerned me the most, but it's very fixable, and we've seen it, in the first 6 games, it wasn't an issue, is being dominated up front. And when I say dominate, it's not always being physically dominated. Sometimes it's being out schemed. Yeah. And it goes from whether it's coaches or it's offensive scheme to execution. There's no way you should give up 5 sacks against a team like Baltimore. I know they're really good at scheming guys open, and they're really good even in one-on-ones. They've got good players. But if you're top 3 offensive line, you're not going to be perfect, but you shouldn't give up 5 sacks and another, 3 or 4 hits on your quarterback, another, dozen hurries.
Yeah.
And then when you look, and it's hard when you throw the ball 53 yards for 53 times. That's not a recipe or a ratio that you want to go into a game with. I thought defensively, it was kind of the same thing. I felt like they weren't getting pressure on the quarterback, and they were accounting for Aiden Hutchinson, double, triple teams, but nobody else was winning matchups. So it was losing the game in the trenches. But I look and I say, this is a team that's not the norm. That's a one-off right now.
Yeah. And I think they've kind of earned that label over the past 17 games now, where their record is 13-4. They've kind of proved to us that, hey, when we have a down game, we're gonna pick our shit up and we'll be right back. Don't worry. So that's what gives me a little bit of encouragement to know that, hey, don't panic. Right, these guys are gonna get it right. We've seen it more times than not, 13 times out of 17 times where they're gonna get it right. You just have an off day. Last year was kind of the Carolina game where wasn't really competitive, right? Just everything was going against you. Couldn't find a way to crawl back in the game. And sometimes it happens, right? It happens. We all know that. Defensively, though, it was small concern to me was just kind of the deja vu that you got of guys being undisciplined, guys not paying attention to the small details, guys not having the correct awareness on some certain plays where, I talked to some coaches before the games. One of my offensive line coach, I had in Green Bay for a long time, is with Carolina now. And I talked to him before the Carolina game, and I said, man, what is it about this defense, the Lions defense, that makes them so good against the run right now? Because I think at that time they were allowing about 60 yards a game. Yeah. And he's like, man, they're just aggressive. Like, they fly downhill. They get in the backfield. Like, their linebackers are fast and they're aggressive. And, they read, run, get run, right? The concern to me is our team's starting to take advantage of that, right? Our team's starting to hit more of those play action passes because they know these linebackers are so aggressive that now they're sucking up to the line of scrimmage. And how many times yesterday did we see the middle of the field completely wide open? I mean, nobody within 10 yards of some of these receivers and tight ends. It's like that, to me, was a big concern, because you have to know awareness-wise as a linebacker, especially if you're not getting blocked, it is not a run play, right? And I didn't watch the TV copy. Somebody mentioned it to me that Greg Olsen, I think, pointed it out, that linebackers, like the one play where Lamar Jackson kind of fakes the read option and he's kind of scrambling like he's going to tuck and run. And then they hit a little pop pass to the running back for an 80-yard gain. It's like you watch that and you say, man, first of all, hell of a play call from Baltimore. I mean, I don't know where they got that from. I've never seen a play like that run that type of way where it looks like run, and then last second you hit him over the top. But again, like linebacker, the awareness, right? Nobody's blocking me. Okay, something's up. The antenna goes up, alert goes up. I got to drop back, right? You know what I mean? And yesterday just seemed, when you hear Campbell say after the game, our attention to detail wasn't there, the discipline wasn't there. That to me is doing your assignment. That to me is saying, hey, even though I'm playing a guy like Lamar Jackson, I'm not going to be greedy. I'm not going to abandon my guy to try to go get a hit on him. I'm going to leave that to whoever's job that is on that certain play, right? And yesterday, too many times we saw when Lamar would start to scramble a little bit, 3 or 4 sets of eyes go to him, right? Oh my God, it's Lamar. Got to get him.
Yeah.
Beat over the top. You know what I mean? So that was a big bit of concern to me yesterday, because that's the type of defense that we've seen in the past year and a half that's gotten them in trouble. Is it all correctable? Yes. Talking to Alex yesterday after the game, he said, the encouraging part is we can fix all this. Like we don't feel like we just got, our asses completely whipped and we just got physically dominated and we just got, no answers for what happened. I mean, anytime you're letting up that many explosive plays, that many free runners, that many uncovered guys, it's normally pretty fixable. So that's, I think, maybe the silver lining coming out of that defensive room. It's going to be painful to watch the film today. I promise you that. But I know those guys are encouraged that, you know what, we got a little greedy. We played uncharacteristic. That's not who we are. Let's get back to our identity. And that should be something that they're able to do moving forward.
And you would love, as a player, for this to be a Thursday night game, because you're going to have to sit and wallow in this one
for an extra
week
day
long.
now.
Now you got to do it for an extra day because it's Monday Night Football, that next one. But how would you handle a game like this where the team, no matter who it was, and it was, it was special teams, offense, defense, and when you have a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown that doesn't play up to the normal standard and he has a drop, and you have other guys, Penei Sewell with the 2 holds, like there was just things that were uncharacteristically happening in that game. That how would you handle as a team moving forward?
I would say, you guys, no panic, right?
Yeah.
We laid an egg, no doubt in that, no sugarcoating that. Bad day across the board, coaches, bad day across the board. That's not us, right? And I think that they can say that, they can believe that, because this hasn't been a problem that starts stacking on top of each other. Man, we can't figure it out. Oh, shit, now we're starting to press too much, and now it starts really tumbling downhill. The negative plays after negative games, losses, whatever. We've seen them rebound, right? And I think that's who they are. That's their identity. You're going to punch us in the mouth, and we're going to get got sometimes. But we're going to get you more than you get us. And that's kind of been their kind of MO, at least over the past 17 games that we've seen. And I think that that's who they believe that they are. And I believe that's who they are. I think it's a team that's proven that they're incredibly resilient. I think it's a team that's proven that they're not going to be affected by people maybe saying, oh, well, we were overrating them, man. They haven't played any quarterbacks. They haven't played anybody. Look, they played a good team. They got their ass beat. Like, that doesn't affect them. They know who they are in that locker room. So if it's Dan Campbell, you say, look, we got to make corrections. We got to watch this film. We got to figure it out. We got to get back on track. But I'm not hitting the panic button, right? I'm not going out here and changing personnel. I'm not going out here and all of a sudden making a bunch of cuts and signing a bunch of free agents and bringing in a bunch of tryout guys. I trust what we have in this building. You guys should trust it too. You've got guys have proven it now over a 17-game stretch that you're a pretty damn good football team when we play our style of football. I hope that they get a little bit healthy, kind of going into the bye week. I don't know really any of these guys that missed. Obviously, the 2 big names, Jonah Jackson and Dave Montgomery. Yeah. I don't know if they're going to be ready by this Monday night game, but that's another thing. You take it this week and you say, let's get this one and then go freaking on a break, man. Let's go into the break 6-2, everything in front of us, feeling pretty damn good. Recharge. We're getting healthy, right? We're going to get a couple guys back. Let's find a way to get back on track, but I'm not hitting the panic button. There's a lot of coaches out there that have a big ego, and as soon as they lose a game, oh shit, they figured us out. We got to change everything. Oh my God. Right. We got to start doing this and this and that. Yeah. You know what I mean? You've been there. I've been there too. Dan Campbell's not that type of guy. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. I mean, we got punched in the mouth. Is what it is. Make the corrections, get back on track, go back into the mud, as he said, I think after the Seattle game, a place that they're comfortable being at, and get this thing figured out.
If it was, hey, everybody played good, but you lost because of one side of the ball, or because you had a deficiency at running back or linebacker or quarterback. If you could point to one, position, I think those are really hard to take, because everybody else played good. They gave it their best, and you still came up short. This was a game where everybody sucked.
Yeah, and across the board.
So it's kind of one of those where it's going to be painful to watch. But as soon as you're done, you take the film, you flush it, you move on.
And it's never as bad as it seems either. I mean,
rarely. Sometimes it can be.
Sometimes it can be as worse than it seems. Yeah. But normally when you watch a game like this, it's not as bad as it seems. Like there's a couple plays, the explosive plays where you say, ah, damn, like, God, if I didn't get greedy, man, like would have had him right there. A third down early in the game, a guy like Hutchinson, they get down in the red zone. It's a second down. You got his hands around Lamar, man, like didn't bring him down. Boom. Now it leads to a touchdown where maybe we could have had him 3rd and 18 and maybe we're down 10-0. Maybe that changes the course of the game. You don't know. So you always seem to point at maybe one play or one moment to say, guys, man, we just make that one right. This game's totally different. So it's probably not as bad as they think it's going to be watching it today. But certainly a lot of corrections that are going to have to be made and hopefully some tendency breakers, because Baltimore to me looked like a team in today's kind of world. And then I'm not accusing them of anything of this, but they seem to me,
scouting?
No, they seem to me like they had the right play call. There's a cat and mouse game that goes on between O coordinator, D coordinator. Hey, they're a man team when we get down in the red zone. Oh shit, they're running a bunch of zone. All right, let's start calling our zone beaters. Oh shit, they switched back to man. We weren't ready for it, right? Like that to me is kind of that cat and mouse game. That's why I say you look at the coaches sometimes, and certainly wasn't Aaron Glenn or Ben Johnson's best day either. I think they know that, and that's why I say hopefully you make some adjustments moving forward with some of the tendencies that you're starting to develop. Teams have 7 games of film on you now. Every team has tendencies. How can you outsmart the other team by saying, okay, we've shown this every time we do this, it's a run or it's a play action pass. How can you switch that up now to where maybe you can steal an explosive play because they're expecting one thing and you hit them with something different? That's what Baltimore did yesterday, right? That's what they did a lot with those RPOs and some of their play action passes. They broke some tendencies and we saw it lead to some big plays.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot easier to be the cat when you're up 28-0 before the Lions get a first down.
You play any, mini, miny, mo at that point if you're Mike McDonald and Todd Monken.
But you mentioned the resiliency of this team. And if we're going to go back and say, hey, over 17 games, obviously they haven't played 17 games this year, but a lot the core group of guys, coaches and players carried over from last year. They lost Thanksgiving to the Buffalo Bills. They bounced back with a 40-14 win over Jacksonville. They lost to Carolina. In a game that you and I just talked about, very similar to this, where they defensively just got the kicked out of them. They bounced back and they pounded the Bears 41-10. This year, the Seahawks, they lost, and it was a heartbreaker in overtime. Then they bounced back with a win over Atlanta. So they've been able to bounce back. It hasn't been you lose and it carries over to the next week. You can't find a way to rebound, and one loss leads to 2, leads to 3. They have found a way to put losses behind them and bounce back. And that's what I expect them to do. Even though this was an embarrassing bad loss, it was still to a good team. And they have the opportunity to bounce back against the Raiders on Monday Night Football. And this team, if nothing else, has performed extremely good when they've been in prime time.
Yeah, and there seems to be something different with the coaching staff too. I mean, last year, during that 1-6 stretch, like there was so much hostility on the sideline, guys screaming at each other, coaches screaming at players screaming at coaches screaming at coaches. It just looked like it was just like not a good spot to be, right? No confidence. Everybody's kind of panicking out there. I'll tell you, when they kind of flipped the script in the second half of the season, and even this year, yesterday when things were going bad, I'm kind of wandering the sideline and you're like, oh man, Cam, want to see if anybody's getting their ass chewed out or, whose fault it is. Normally the D coordinator will go up to one of the groups and, hey, you guys got to figure it out. Yesterday, I'm kind of watching and you're like, okay, like they're going about this a professional way. Like it's a brotherhood. They're in it together. They're kind of watching the film and, hey, right, I need you on this play, right? We got to do this. In the past, I think there would have been a lot of freak out where guys are screaming and throwing tablets and chucking helmets. I didn't see that yesterday. I didn't see a lot of guys pointing the fingers. It was kind of and I heard one of the coaches kind of get riled up at one point, and, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the line of like, we're dog shit right now, right? And one of the players kind of took offense to it, and he said, no, I mean all of us. I'm dog shit right now. Like everything's dog shit right now. Like there's a togetherness feeling where when things go bad, sometimes it can become a players versus coaches battle. Yeah. No, well, you guys aren't calling the right play. Well, you guys aren't doing, you know what I mean? this team kind of feels like a togetherness. We're not doing it the right way. We're getting our ass kicked, or we're doing it great to get, you know what I mean? And I think that plays a big part of why they're able to get these things corrected, because it is a unit. It is a togetherness where you feel like you're not going out there on Sunday now to try to prove your coach wrong. You're going out there to do it together, right? And that's something to me that I admire about Dan Campbell. I admire about the coaching staff. And I think is important when you talk about having a lot of former players on that staff, because they've all been there. They've all gotten their ass kicked, and they've all been on the other side of that too, where you're beating somebody's ass. But they know how to get it corrected. And that's why I have a lot of faith in hopefully chalking this up as the one-off and not who they really are, and getting back on track this week. Well,
TJ, glad you made it back safe. I think there's probably a lot of people that will want to make sure that they never watch that game again. And after watching it, I'm sure today the team will put that one, burn that film, and they'll move on. And we're going to move on as well, because on next Monday night, a week from today, they're going to host the Las Vegas Raiders. At the end of this week, we'll come to you with a little bit of a scouting report. We'll be back. I apologize. I was out last week, family matter. I didn't get a chance to do my picks. Did you?
I did it with Stoney. Actually joined me for a few minutes. He, I think he picked the Ravens. So I don't know if you want to take credit for that. I know who you took. You took the Lions, yes. But we only picked that game. So both of us 0-1 coming off of the weekend.
Yes. But hey, we'll have the keys to the game. We'll have a scouting report. We'll have an injury report as we get towards the end of the week. So make sure you stay tuned here. Make sure you like, subscribe, so you always get all of the latest information on what's going on down at Allen Park right here on Necessary Roughness.